It was Halloween night, 2016. My parents had asked me to hand out candies to all the kids that evening. Now, my mom, she had bought what felt like a million bags of candy. Seriously, way more than we'd ever need. And I already knew the aftermath. We'd have tons of candy left over for weeks. And guess who'd end up munching on it? Yep, me. Even though, at the time, I was trying to lose a bit of weight. I always told my mom she went overboard with candy. Our house was tucked at the end of a cul-de-sac kind of out of the way, so normally, we didn't get many trick-or-treaters. But still, there were always a few kids who knew our place was worth visiting. They were loyal, I guess. That year, Halloween fell on a Monday. I was in college, and lucky for me, Mondays and Wednesdays were off that semester. So, I spent the first half of the day going to the gym, then worked on some assignments. Around 4 p.m., I started hearing kids outside. The first signs of trick-or-treating starting. The doorbell rang for the first time, sometime between 4 and 5 p.m. And, honestly, the day went as you'd expect. Nothing too crazy about handing out candy to little kids all day, except for my dog Vito. That little guy barked his head off every single time the doorbell rang. From the first kid to around 8 p.m., I'd say maybe 10 to 15 kids total came by. Like I said, our cul-de-sac was off the beaten path, so most kids just kept going. Since it was a Monday, things got quiet pretty early. I got a decent chunk of homework done and made progress on my projects. Later, I had some leftover stew my mom had made, then headed to my room to watch Game of Thrones. I was about 2 episodes in when, out of nowhere, the doorbell rang again. Vito went absolutely crazy barking. I looked at the clock, 9:30 p.m. Way past trick-or-treating time. I went downstairs and opened the front door, and that's when I saw him. Through the glass storm door, a very tall man stood there, dressed in a clown costume, masked, terrifying. By his build, I could tell he was a man, and he was alone. He waved at me, then pointed at the brown sack he was holding, which looked pretty empty. I didn't open the storm door. I just said through it, "Sorry, we don't have any more candy," and shut the main door quickly. I locked it immediately, and honestly, I regretted even opening it. I thought maybe it was some parent bringing a late-night kid for last-minute trick-or-treating, but no, this was definitely not a kid, not even a teenager. The guy was huge, and that clown costume made him look even bigger. Thankfully, I hadn't grabbed the candy bowl before opening the door, so he couldn't tell I was lying. I stayed by the door for a while, listening for footsteps, but there was nothing. Dead silence. Then, he rang the doorbell again. Vito went berserk once more. Now, Vito's a rat terrier. His bark isn't scary, and he's definitely not the type to defend the house. I picked him up and carried him upstairs after turning off all the downstairs lights. Plan was simple. Make it look like I wasn't opening that door again tonight. I put Vito in my room and shut the door so he'd stop barking. Then I stood at the top of the stairs, listening. That's when I heard it, the storm door being forced open. A loud snap, like the latch had been broken. Then came the knocks, the doorknob rattling. At that point, I decided, hide in my room. I was terrified. I texted my family group chat, explaining what was happening. No reply. I figured maybe he'd get bored and leave. I thought about texting my guy friends, but none of them were tall enough to match the guy outside. I tried focusing on my show again. Pretending it wasn't happening might help, right? Then, the doorbell rang again. It felt like a nightmare. I kept telling Vito to be quiet. My blinds were closed. I didn't want the clown to know where I was. I tried calling my dad, no answer. Then, I called my brother. He picked up, but said he wasn't alone, which meant he was with a girl. I told him to check his texts. There was a guy dressed as a clown outside. He wouldn't leave. He laughed, told me it was probably a Halloween prank and to ignore it. He sounded like he wanted off the phone, so I hung up. I hoped he was right. Just some dumb prank. After a few minutes, sitting on the edge of my bed, anxious, the doorbell finally stopped ringing. I finally felt safe enough to relax. I lay back down, turned off the TV, and let the room fall completely silent and dark. Soon after, I drifted off. I don't think I even got into deep sleep when... Vito growled, softly, like he wanted my approval to bark louder. I told him to be quiet, and noticed what he was staring at, the window. I listened closely, faint thumping outside, something rubbing against the glass. My bedroom was on the 2nd floor. No one should reach that window. But the sounds kept coming. I slowly opened the blinds, and I was wrong. The clown right outside my window. All I could see was that mask staring straight at me. He tilted his head, looking at me. I screamed. Vito didn't even bark. Or maybe I was too shocked to notice. I grabbed my phone, ran to my parents' room, and locked the door. My hands were shaking as I dialed 911. I was too terrified to cry, my voice trembled. I kept asking every few seconds if the police were on their way. They assured me they were coming as fast as they could. About 10 minutes later, they arrived. They checked the outside of the house for forced entry. The storm door latch was broken just as I thought, and leaning against the side of the house, my dad's ladder. The man had gone into the storage shed, grabbed it, and climbed up to my window. After that, I didn't stay home. I went to sleep at my friend Adam's house. To this day, I still don't know. Was it just a sick Halloween prank? Or was something much worse about to happen that night? This happened 2 years ago. On Halloween night, 2023. I'm 25 now, but back then, when this story happened, I was 22. That day had been insanely busy. We were hosting this big Halloween festival at the community center, and man, it was chaos. Parents, kids, costumes, candy everywhere. We had all sorts of activities, little competitive games, a costume contest, trivia for candy, and even this hilarious kids versus parents dodgeball match. It was fun. Yeah, really fun. But by the end of it, I was completely drained. Now, for context, I work in the community sector. So yeah, organizing events like this is kind of part of the job, but it can get exhausting. Once everything wrapped up, I headed home ready to crash and finally call it a night. About an hour later, around 6 p.m., my phone rang. It was my little sister, let's call her Savannah. She wanted me to take her and my nephew, Jackson, trick-or-treating. Apparently, neither our parents nor Jackson's parents were in the mood for it. So, naturally, it fell to me, the cool big brother, to save Halloween. Now Savannah was 15, and Jackson was 11. I wasn't exactly in the mood, but you know how it is. I got up, threw on some clothes, and headed to my parents' house to pick them up. When I got there, Savannah was still finishing her costume. She was dressed as Raven from Teen Titans, white face makeup, dark cloak, that ghostly look. Jackson, on the other hand, was Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat. They looked awesome. Finally, she was ready, and we got in the car. I drove them to this busy neighborhood, you know, the kind where every house goes all out with decorations and candy. We went door to door, laughing, joking, collecting tons of candy. People were super friendly. One older man even gave them each a hot dog, and a soda, said he preferred giving kids something with protein instead of sugar. Honestly, more people should do that. We passed by other kids, got a few compliments on the costumes, and even saw some seriously creative ones ourselves. The whole place just had that perfect Halloween vibe. By the time we hit the last house, things had quieted down. Most people had already gone inside. And that's when I noticed something. Across the street, there was this figure, standing completely still, all black, no porch light on, just standing there. Something about it instantly caught my eye. They were wearing a hooded cloak, all black, and a mask, their face completely hidden. I couldn't even tell if it was a man or a woman, but whoever it was, they were staring right at us. I told Savannah and Jackson quietly, "Hey, stick close. There's someone across the yard. Don't stare, just look." Jackson laughed, thought it was someone trying to be spooky. But Savannah, she didn't laugh. She knew I wasn't kidding. For context, I had my Glock in my backpack, and Savannah knew that. Jackson was too young to know. We kept walking, trying not to make a scene. But that feeling that someone's following you, it just wouldn't go away. And then I heard it. Heavy footsteps behind us. Boots hitting the concrete. I turned around. It was them. The same figure, but now they weren't in a cloak. They were in full tactical gear. Boots, black pants tucked in, a tactical vest, and a full spandex mask covering their face completely. My heart just dropped. This wasn't a costume. This person looked armed. I whispered to Savannah and Jackson, "Listen carefully. Keep walking. Don't stop. Don't look back. The person behind us is following. Stay calm." Savannah nodded. She understood immediately. Jackson just kept walking, clueless, munching on candy. We tried to act normal, but every time I glanced back, that person was still there. Same distance, same pace. When we finally reached the car, I decided to act. I turned, pulled my Glock out, pointed it at them, and yelled, "Why are you following us?" The figure stopped, raised their hands, and slowly took off their mask. It was a woman, maybe in her 30 seconds. She didn't look scared. She just stared at me. I asked again, "Why are you following us?" Her voice, it was flat, robotic. She said, "I'm an undercover cop. I heard there was a break-in and came to check. When you looked at me funny, I assumed you did it. You should lower that weapon, or I could have you arrested for threatening an officer." For a second, I hesitated. Then I lowered my gun just slightly. But something about her story didn't make sense. If she was undercover, why was she standing outside, away from the houses? And how does me looking at her funny make me a suspect? And that cloak she had on earlier, what was that? I asked. If you're undercover, why the tactical gear? And what's with the cloak? She didn't answer. She just stared, and then her expression changed. Something dark, something malicious. And then she smiled. If you didn't have that gun, she said, tonight would have ended very differently for you. Right after that, 4 more figures appeared, stepping out between houses. All in tactical gear. No cloaks this time. I told Savannah and Jackson to get in the car. I kept my eyes on those figures, started the engine, and drove off. The woman just stood there, smiling, while the others stood motionless, blank faces, like they didn't even have souls. The drive back was dead silent. No one said a word. I dropped them off safely, then went home, still trying to process what the hell just happened. Why us? That neighborhood was crowded. Why were we the ones being followed? A few days later, I got a text from an unknown number. No message, just a photo of my car parked outside my building. That was it. No words. I went to the police, showed them everything, but without a direct threat, they couldn't do much. I even went back to that house where she said there'd been a break-in. Turns out, nothing had happened. The whole undercover cop story was fake. Whoever they were, they knew where I lived. They knew my phone number. That night really messed me up. I got therapy, installed a Ring camera. Since then, nothing. No texts, no strange figures, just silence. But I still think about it even now, 2 years later. And if there's one thing I learned from that night, it's this. Always, always pay attention to your surroundings, because danger doesn't always come with a warning. Sometimes it just stands there, watching you from across the street. And having a way to protect myself that night, honestly, it probably saved our lives. Like so many high school stories do with a group chat, it was the first week of October. You know, that time when the air starts to feel a little colder, a little sharper. Halloween was on everyone's mind, and for my circle of friends, it wasn't just a holiday, it was sacred. There was me, Liam, the planner, the strategist. Then Chloe, she acted fearless. But honestly, she was the easiest one to scare. Ben, the logical one. He needed a reason, an explanation for everything. And Sam, quiet, observant, fiercely loyal. We've been best friends since middle school. Every year, we threw this huge Halloween party, a tradition we never broke. So, like always, I grabbed my phone, made a new group chat, and added everyone. I called it Halloween Havoc 2019. At first, the messages were exactly what you'd expect. I typed, "All right, team, time to start party planning." Chloe was first. "Yes, let's go all out this year. Fog machines, the works." Ben, being Ben, replied, "Hold on, let's set a budget first. Remember last year's 10-foot inflatable spider?" And Sam, he just said, "Count me in." For about an hour, we went back and forth themes, snacks, playlists, laughing, joking. It felt normal. It felt fun. We were in our little bubble, completely unaware of what was coming. Then I noticed something strange. A 5th participant had been added to the chat. No name, just a random string of numbers. I frowned and typed, who's this?" Ben shrugged. "Probably one of you using a new phone." He asked Chloe, "Is this you?" Chloe replied, "Nope, not me." And Sam said, "Not me either." We all went quiet for a second. I figured, okay, maybe a glitch. I was just about to delete the number when a message appeared. "This sounds fun. Short, simple, but something about it didn't feel right. Ben laughed it off. Haha, very funny. Who is this? One of your cousins, Liam? I typed, no idea who you are. Chloe instantly fired back. Just kick them out, this is creepy. Before I could, another message popped up, directed straight at Chloe. Don't be scared, Chloe. It's just a party. Chloe froze. Then she typed, how do you know my name? This isn't funny anymore. We tried brushing it off. Maybe some random friend of a friend who got the number wrong. But deep down, we knew something was off. How did they know her name? Ben said, maybe it's a lucky guess. Chloe's a common name, but we all knew that was a stretch. For the next few days, the mystery number stayed quiet. We kept planning the party, but it felt different, like someone was watching, listening. Then, the real terror began. A week later, we were hanging out at our usual spot, the park bench by the duck pond. Laughing, joking about something a teacher said. It was just a normal day. Later that night, ping, a new message in the chat. A photo. It showed us sitting on that exact bench, laughing, taken from behind a big oak tree. Someone had been there, watching us. My stomach dropped. I called Chloe immediately. She picked up on the first ring, voice shaking. Did you see it, Liam? The picture? I whispered. Yeah, someone was there, watching. Ben tried to stay logical. It's probably a prank. Maybe someone from school saw us and thought it'd be funny. Then another message appeared. Still think it's a joke, Ben? Be careful crossing Elm Street. You almost didn't see that blue sedan today. We all froze. Ben had actually almost been hit by a car earlier that afternoon. Whoever this was, they were watching him too. After that, things got darker, more personal. They knew Sam's secret crush. They knew I was scared of failing calculus. They knew Chloe's nightmares about small spaces, something she'd only ever told me. Every secret, every fear dropped into the chat like poison. We were trapped, scared to talk, scared to leave. Blocking the number didn't help. It was like it lived inside our chat. Finally, Ben snapped. He typed, I'm done. I'm leaving this chat. And he left. For a moment, silence, relief. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Ben. My phone's going crazy. Apps opening and closing by themselves. Before I could reply ping, the group chat lit up again. A new photo. Ben, asleep in his bed, taken from the foot of his bed. Timestamp, 3:14 a.m. And then, Ben was automatically added back into the group. One message followed. You can't leave. That was it. The breaking point. This wasn't a prank anymore. This was real. Dangerous. The next day, we met at my house. No texts, no calls. Chloe's voice trembled. We have to go to the police, Ben said. And tell them what? That some random number is sending creepy texts? They'll laugh at us. He wasn't wrong. All we had were screenshots and fear. Then, Sam said quietly, let's find out who owns this number. We used a reverse lookup site, paid for the search, and waited. The result came back. The phone was reported stolen. May 17th, 2017. Right here in our town. A dead end. A ghost phone. The chat went silent after that. Days passed, but every little notification made us jump. 2 days before Halloween, Chloe whispered, you should cancel. I shook my head. No. If we cancel, they win. We decide the rules. Only trusted friends. No masks. Until inside. Finally, Halloween night arrived. The house looked amazing. Music, laughter for a few hours. Everything felt normal. The chat stayed quiet. Then, just after midnight, ding dong, the doorbell. We froze. No one else was supposed to come. Through the peephole, a man in a black hoodie, white, expressionless mask. Chloe whispered, who is it? I said, I don't know. Maybe someone's right. I opened the door just a crack. Can I help you? No answer. Then he shoved the door open, stepped inside. A knife glinted in his hand. Phones and wallets. Now, his voice low, rough, unfamiliar. Was this him? The one from the chat? Was this how it all ended? Then I noticed Sam. He wasn't frozen in fear. He was ready. I'd forgotten he took kung fu classes. And before the guy could move, Sam struck. Locked the knife, twisted his wrist crack. The man screamed, dropped the knife. Sam kicked his knee. He fell, then jumped in, helped pin him down. Liam, call the police! Sam yelled. I fumbled for my phone, dialed 911, hands shaking. Within minutes, flashing lights, police stormed in, cuffed the man, and pulled off his mask. A stranger, just a local guy trying to rob us. One officer searched him and pulled out a cracked old phone. Not the ghost phone, just another. They arrested. We gave our statements. Sam, they called him a hero. And just like that, The night was over. The unknown number never messaged us again. The chat still exists, though a quiet, digital graveyard of fear. We never found out who it was. A prankster? Someone who planned to come to the party? Or maybe the robbery was just a coincidence. The intruder, he's in jail, but the one who watched us, who knew us, our fears, our secrets, he's still out there. And that's the kind of horror no martial arts skill, no police officer can ever protect you from.